Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Your Competitive Edge with Baird Warner. I'm Lauren Walker. I'm Senior Director of Strategy here at Inman. And today we're going to talk about first impressions and your brand. And to do that, we have the absolute ideal guest with us today, Catherine Leonard. Thank you so much for being here, Catherine.
You're so welcome. I'm delighted to be here.
Well, you are the exact right person to talk to us about this because not only are you a designated managing broker at Baird Warner, you have the right CV to talk about brand.
I hope so.
I know so because I already heard about it, but we're going to share with our audience. So in fact, on that note, would you take us back through time a little bit and give us kind of some highlights of your pre-real estate career?
I certainly will. It's way back in time, but I come from a background of advertising and executive at Young and Rubicam, which is on Madison Avenue. It's what I always wanted to do. Oddly enough, growing up, I wanted to be in advertising in New York
Sure.
City, and they were at the time the largest privately held advertising agency in the world. And the comparison was not lost on me when I got to know Baird and Warner, and it too is one of the largest privately owned.
Right. There's a lot of
the
overlap
largest
there.
privately owned real estate company in Chicagoland. So that appealed to me. Anyway, at Young and Rubicam, I met my husband there as well. He and we don't go a week probably without reflecting on things we learned there that apply to this career path now. We were trained very well, just like we like to think we do at Baird and Warner for our agents. And we were trained in things like strategy and branding, of course. And today's discussion is completely aligned with my experience, but with an eye toward, it's the agent who we want to brand, and talk about that today. The agent is the product, if you will.
Yes, absolutely. Before we dive right into that, I want to explore a little bit about the idea of Baird and Warner as a brand.
Of course.
Because, we had a little pre-interview conversation, and it was really intriguing to me to understand that you were very mindful in your career change of going to Baird and Warner. And so talk a little bit about that journey and that decision process.
Well, thank you for asking. And I can be almost probably off-putting at how enthusiastic I am about Baird and Warner, because I know some of our listeners aren't part of us and maybe don't live near where they can be, but it ties into the fact that a brand needs to be authentic. Yes. And it needs to match with the client. And that happened for me. When I Googled Baird and Warner after having been approached by them to take a management position, I just did a plain old dumb Google of Baird and Warner, and up popped something that truly resonated with me. And it was the fact that Baird and Warner played a huge and important dramatic role in furthering fair housing in Chicagoland, and which then spread to the United States in the 1960s. Mm-hmm. And as somebody who in my spare time over the last decade, I've spent a lot of time working with the homeless, with a charity organization, that just hit me. And the fact that it was the first thing that popped up in my search tells me that it is truly authentic to Baird and Warner. It really is who they are, or it wouldn't be so far up in the articles that popped up about them. And it resonated with me because that's what is important to me. So talk about branding and connecting. I turned to my husband and I said, I'm in. I don't really care what they say tomorrow at the interview, but this is who I want to be with. And indeed, our tagline is, in the motto, if you will, that we go by at Baird and Warner is that we do the right thing always. Mm.
Well, that's a big brand to live up to. But
I'm grateful to be part of it, for sure.
Walking the walk. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. So you came on board with this background in advertising, which they recognized, right? They saw that on your resume and thought, we want you for this reason.
Yes, and I was so impressed by that and humbled by that. I didn't even know they would notice. It was a long time ago. But when I talked a little bit about my impression of their brand, at least in my town, and what I thought we might do to advance that a little bit and maybe complete the messaging, Steve Baird himself was very interested in what I had to say, which told me more about the brand, that there's a humility here and a desire to always be getting better and better. And all of that appealed to me, and it truly is who we are.
Yes.
So that's branding that I think it's hard to beat.
Well, already something is jumping out to me, and that's the idea that a brand is not what you say, it's what you do.
Absolutely. And I'll talk a little bit more. A brand is, nor is it the logo.
Yes. Yes. Well, let's
No.
get into that. What is the brand? What do you mean when you say the word brand?
So thank you for asking that. And I wanted to, and I've talked to you about this, you're allowing me to sort of take a stab at it from my advertising background perspective, which I thought might help the listeners. You know, in the advertising world, when we attempted to brand a product, we went about it from a standpoint of define the objective. You know, what do you want the brand to be? And then go to strategy. How and where are you going to communicate that? And then the last and most important is the execution of that strategy. What exactly is your messaging? You may want to be this. How are you going to say it?
Right.
And where are you going to say it? So, and also to quote Tom Ferry, one of the famous real estate coaches in the United States, differentiate or die. So let's start by saying branding is extremely important in the real estate industry. But I also think it needs to be approached objective, strategy, execution. So if I may, I'll sort of dig into those separately. So number one, the objective. Decide who you want to be. What do you want the brand to be? It needs to be authentic. It needs to really be who you are. And P.S., that's not going to match with everybody, right? So in the Baird Warner example, I was so drawn to their dedication and historic devotion to fair housing that appealed to me. It wouldn't maybe appeal to every other person interviewing for that job, but it was a match there. So you're not going to match with everybody, but you must be authentic in your brand. That goes deep down into writing your bios. You know, it's not, you know, I really love people. You know, that's not a brand.
No.
You know, who are you? What is important to you? And what value will you be bringing? The next thing when we talk about strategy is you absolutely have to be consistent and it has to be pervasive. So we tell our agents here, every communication that you have, whether it's a text, a phone call, a long piece of, you know, a long written copy, it has to communicate your value. What is your brand, your value? What are you bringing to the party? And I don't mean a logo. There are wonderful top agents who maybe have a signature flair. Maybe there's an orchid at every listing, but that's not a brand. That's a symbol that team has been here. This is their listing, but it's not their brand. So the brand is, what can I expect from this person, from this agent? Example I thought of, you know, the Ritz-Carlton. I can't really tell you what their logo looks like, but I know what their brand is, which is exceptional service. So that's what you want to achieve in your communication, that there's no mistaking that when Lauren Walker, real estate agent, shows up, this is what I'm going to get.
Yeah.
And the last thing we talked about, so we did objective strategy, is the last thing is the execution, which is the messaging. So what are you going to say to people? How do you articulate your value? And we talk about this all the time in my office. We have a banner hanging up that says, demonstrate your value. And the other one says, all your clients deserve context. And the word serve is underlined in the word deserve. We highlight serve. How are you demonstrating your value? So we have an exercise here. We have literally a document that combines why our clients deserve Baird Warner, because don't forget, part of your brand is the company you work for.
Sure.
Your sponsoring broker, right? That's your brand. So all that they bring to the party. In Baird Warner's case, I'm proud to say our wonderful culture, our, you know, doing the right thing through history, and then our exceptional state-of-the-art tools. All of you can think about your company's brand and what that brings to the party. And then in your messaging, you get to pair that with, what do you bring to the party? So we train that in listing presentations, we sit down and say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, here's why you deserve Baird Warner, and here's why you deserve me. And here's what I bring to the party. And that's compelling. And when you use the word deserve, you're inadvertently giving your brand value.
Sure.
I'm so good. Our company's so good. You deserve us. One exercise that is fun to do if you're having trouble thinking about, well, what's my brand? How do I differentiate myself? Everybody has nice brochures. Everybody is going to put it in the MLS. But what do you do to make the entire experience more valuable and memorable?
Mm-hmm.
Find somebody who's the closest to you. It might be a work colleague. It might be a family member, and say, okay, what are the 3 words you would use to describe me? You might want to qualify 3 positive words.
Yes.
And begin to work off of that. So I had the exercise, I did that with my husband this morning. And one of the words he used for me was relentless.
Ooh.
And we laughed that, that's not going to appeal to everybody,
Mm-hmm.
but it's who I am. So I'm not going to present myself as I just really love people. I swear I really work hard. And I've just got really nice brochures. Not my brand.
Right.
My brand is, I'm bringing my relentlessness to pair with Baird & Warner's spectacular tools and history of expertise, and I'm bringing all that to bear on the marketing of your home. That's a little bit of a differentiation.
Sure.
So those are my thoughts on sort of how to go about disciplining yourself. And I see agents, Lauren, take forever to get ready, to be ready, because it's all about their website or it's all about designing their logo. And I'm not poo-pooing that or disparaging that,
Right.
but that's like the garnish on the dish. You've got to decide what your menu is.
Absolutely. And it's easier said than done. It's hard work, to get that groundwork established and really understand how you show up authentically. And authenticity is a buzzword at this point. It's overused. So I feel like it might be of value to talk a little bit about what authenticity means when you're thinking of it in terms of your own personal brand.
Well, we all acknowledge that trust is a very important part about winning a listing or winning a buyer client. They need to trust you, right? And so again, it comes to sort of demonstrating that. Instead of saying, I swear, you can really trust me, everybody really likes me. Show me. Tell me a story about what you've done.
Yes.
And one of the ways when I don't sell anymore, because Baird & Warner managers just manage, which I like, but in my selling days, in my newsletter, I told stories, but embedded in the stories was giving my readers reason to trust me and use me. So I it was a day in the life of real estate. I gave a story about a bird flew into a house that I was supposed to close on the next day, and bird poop everywhere, particularly the master bedroom. Somebody had left a window open.
Oh.
So, the story wasn't just, I promise if there's, hard times, I'll really fix it. No, I told them how I was out of town, but I called, figured out the Spanish word for bird poop to speak to the cleaners who spoke Spanish, to get them in the next day, to rid any evidence of this bird who then was deceased after his exercise in the house, and how that was handled. Well, with a story like that, or a testimonial like that, that you gather as you go along, the referrals that you gather about how you handled things, that's your brand.
Absolutely. And that shows relentlessness. You were relentless
Yes.
in solving that problem, and that shows it. And that's, comes all the way back, to that conversation about your experience in advertising, because I have a marketing background, and the rule of thumb is show, don't tell.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And new agents may say, well, I can't show because I haven't done any deals yet.
Right.
No, that you can show. And you can show, but first of all, part of being authentic, it's okay to say, I'm new.
Yeah.
I'm new. And I also never bought into the, I'm new, but that means I have a lot of time for you. No one cares.
Right.
I'm new. And here's three ways the people closest to me would describe me, and they all are going to just apply beautifully to this endeavor. And here's a story about how I solved this. It's not unlike a job interview. You've never done that job before, but you have to demonstrate why you would be good at it. So don't just care if you're new.
Often a second career. And so you're not coming into this and a high school graduate. You
Right.
probably have life experience, professional experience that is going to position you, that's going to speak to your authentic brand as a person.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And every communication that you put out there needs to allude to your brand, not a logo, not, a swoosh at the end of a sentence.
Not the fact you like purple.
Right.
Right.
What value are you bringing? It may evolve over time too,
Mhm.
as you become more and more experienced. That's okay, but you need to communicate it clearly and stick to it.
Sure.
And, stick to the execution of it in your messaging.
And Catherine, I've often found that brand serves a purpose beyond what goes external. Sometimes it serves as a Rosetta Stone for what you do internally, because in real estate in particular, there's a lot of hands in your pockets. There's a lot of tools and solutions out there and ways to market yourself. And if you can come back to that brand and say, does this reflect my brand?
What a
Then you know.
great point. And I'll go even one further, Lauren. It can also be a touchstone for clients you may choose not to work for.
Oh, yes.
You may not match them, they may not match you, and that's okay too. In fact, agents in my office who have sort of felt permission to say, you know what, I don't want to be treated like this, or I'm not comfortable with this. It's liberating, and actually sort of took them to the next level. And I would say to them, congratulations, you fired your first client. Now you're really in the game.
Now you know
Because
who you are.
you know who you are, and you are demonstrating that. This
Mhm.
is not what I do. But thank you anyway, and we wish you the best.
That's a powerful moment for anybody.
It is. It is.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
affirming, and it's authentic.
Well, thank you, Catherine. Let's for everyone watching, one more time, walk us through the 3-step process that you
Yes.
outlined earlier.
Thank you. I did want to wrap that up.
Yeah.
So you want to set your objective. What
Yeah.
do you want your brand to be? That's number one.
Mm-hmm.
And because you are a product, think of yourself as a product. What's my branding going to be? Am I the Ritz-Carlton with exceptional service from start to finish? And then you want to think about your strategy. How am I going to communicate this? Sure, a catchy logo or a tagline is part of that, but it's not all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Am I going to do it through social media? Am I going to do it with podcasts? Am I going to do it with billboards? What is my strategy for branding myself? And then the mother lode is the execution. What is my messaging going to be to get this across? How will I say it? How will I demonstrate it? Showing, not telling, when I'm speaking to prospective clients. And that's probably the tricky part, but you don't have to be experienced in real estate to do that. You can come up with stories about how you've handled things that demonstrate your value. And I think that's the most powerful. And the little exercise footnote I would say is think about saying to your clients why they deserve you.
Mm.
Think about the 3 words that describe you. And that will keep you true to yourself, and it will help them trust you and know what they're getting.
Yes.
And then as you go on, people will refer. Oh, Emily is always extremely resourceful. She'll get it done.
Mm-hmm.
So-and-so knows everyone in the community. They've got tentacles everywhere. They'll get your house sold. And you begin to differentiate yourself, which is critical.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's an exercise anybody can do, regardless of what market or what stage of their career that they're in, which is incredibly valuable.
Well, I hope this helps. It's been helpful for us here at Baird Warner, and we've got a brand that I'm so proud of. And I'm sure everybody else can do this exercise and come up with that also.
I think so too. Catherine, thank you so much for sharing your expertise and your time today.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful.
I think so.
Take care.
You too.
Thank you, Lauren.
Bye.
Bye.